Welcome into the CHGO Bears Podcast presented by DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook. Download the app. Use promo code CHGO when you sign up. What's going on, Bears fans? Good to be back. Adam Hoge, Nicholas Moreano, Mark Carman. What's up, guys?
Nothing much. Adam, how are you?
What's up, Hollywood? How you doing, buddy?
I'm all right. I'm a little under the weather, actually, which is why we are remote today. I got some tea here, which is, I don't know why I grabbed tea. My voice is fine, but I think it just makes me feel better. But we're good. We're going to grind it out. Too much to talk about from last week to take another day off, so I'm ready to go.
I want to give a couple of quick shout-outs. Number one, those saying hello at Bulls Memphis yesterday to CHGO Bears. Yours truly, thank you. Same thing with over at Wrigley over the weekend. And when I was looking at our stream about 20 minutes ago, I saw 72 people waiting at 11:40. If you're one of those 72, we all love you. That is that's some big time appreciation from all of us. So big day today. I know Jalen Carter in town, Hoge back. Nick is that his video with DePaul is sweeping the nation. And I know you had a very important conversation as all that we got to get to. So I'm excited as per usual for the show.
Yes, and happy home opener to all the White Sox fans out there. I am trying to represent today. Would love to be out there, but not going to happen today. Cram makes my days worth living, too. I agree.
Logan, let's go, me and you. I don't know what our hangout's going to be. Beers, lunch, ball game. I'm in. Let's go.
All right, well, there is a lot to get to. We're also going to have Adam Jahns join the show as The Athletic got to tell their version of the big Bears-Panthers trade. And I know that they were working hard on that last week. So Johnsy's going to join us in about 15 minutes to come on. And there's a few new nuggets in there that I think are worth discussing. But first and foremost, guys, just being back, I wanted to jump in here and kind of share some of the stuff that maybe we didn't get to last week. Overall takeaways from what came out of the NFL owners meetings last week. And got a couple of clips to share with you, starting with Kevin Warren, because this kind of did stand out to me, and I think it's worth discussing. But just the idea of, and I think it really goes to the heart of the trust the fans actually seem to have right now in the organization, and how much that has flipped in the last calendar year or so. But for a team that only won 3 games and ended up with the first overall pick, there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of drama or anxiousness about anything, and that is something that Kevin Warren addressed last week when we had a chance to talk to him. So here's what Kevin Warren had to say about that.
It's interesting how even coming here for the meetings, it's something special with the Chicago Bears. I mean, this is not a normal environment of a team that won 3 football games last year that you would think most of the times that happens, you're in turmoil. But George is calm. Ryan is calm. Coach Eberflus is calm. I'm calm. We're all connected and working together. And I think there's a sense around the NFL community that we have the right people at the right time in the right situation, focus on the right issues, and none of us have egos, and that we're doing the right thing. So I really love the energy that we have developed and building, and I'm confident that we're gonna do well together.
Now, a word of caution. Because I do want to say the vibe at these owners meetings every year is overwhelmingly positive. And if you just think about how the NFL calendar works, these teams are, Carm, you look disgusted right now, by the way. So we'll get to your thoughts in a second.
Great.
But the reality is that this is the calmest time of year. Any team that was bad last year, they either made changes that are, reinvigorating the franchise, or they're far enough removed from the drama of the season. They're always in a nice warm place at these meetings. Most of them have their families with them. It's actually very relaxing sort of setting. But I also want to say, there does seem to be some truth to what Kevin Warren is saying as he enters this job. And at this point, all he really knows is his overall context of the Bears from being a Chicagoan the last few years, being in the NFL before that. And, since kind of joining the franchise in January. He officially starts 2 weeks from today. I do think there's some truth to what he's saying. Go ahead, Carm.
Well, look, I think I'm going to go down the Carm reads too much into statements, little snippets. I can already feel the chat coming back at me on this. Yeah. But first of all, don't be so calm. Y'all 3-14. It's like I'm and you're not actually that calm. Ryan Poles, we're gonna talk with Jahns about the whole process. He wasn't calm in trading the number 1 pick. He was frantic about it. So it's not exactly accurate. And the thing that actually made me spin around was that we have no egos. You don't get to those positions in life with no egos. That's the head coach of the Chicago Bears. That's the general manager of the Chicago Bears. That's the president, CEO of the Bears. You have to have an ego. So we're a little bit in semantics, but let's not just, this is not kumbaya. This is professional football. And I'm down with the fact that everyone's in a good mood and the Bears are at a great place. And I agree. The franchise is in as good of a spot as it's been in a long time. But I don't, it sort of felt like an oversell right there with Kevin. No egos. Everyone's just settle down. Let's ramp up, something like that.
Well, I'll say this, Mark. Isn't this just a continuation of how the Bears were throughout the 2022 season? Even when they were losing on a 10-game losing streak, the locker room was the same 1 week from the next, and it was pretty consistent throughout. So it kind of just seems like it's being carried over into the offseason to where there is this sense of calmness within the organization. And there were probably parts, like you mentioned in the piece that Jahns and Fishbane worked on, and we'll get to that later. But to me, it just seems like they're just rolling it over from what the season was, this calmness. And now, obviously, when you're in nice Phoenix, Arizona, the birds are chirping back there. Yeah, you're going to be a little calm, right?
Look, Nick, I want to be calm. I want to sleep well. I like to have a nice tea. I'd love to get a massage after the show today and be relaxed. And I'm cool with the Bears being calm. But I don't know. That word is just a little too uncalming. It's slightly nerve-wracking for me. We got a plan. We are executing it. We're moving forward. We're super excited about the draft in 24 days or 26 days when he's talking. I like the fact that he's wearing the orange tie, baby. Let's go, Kevin Warren. I'm glad that everybody's connected. I'm glad they're hanging out with Hoge and Hollywood's having a good time. There's no real problems here, but I'm just picking apart that one little soundbite that you played for us. I can't wait for the next one.
Yes. And then I love how at the end you came back and basically summarized what he was actually trying to say in what he was saying, which was everybody's in alignment. Nobody's overreacting to being a bad football team last year, and everything seems to be on the same page, which is all that he was really trying to say with that word calm.
Which, by the way, is another one of my pet peeves. Is it panic time? What exactly does that mean for a Bears fan? Should I panic? What am I going to do? Go run around the block and act like Greg Braggs for an hour? I don't know what panic means from a fan standpoint. It's a panic time. So I start acting differently? I have no power of what's going on here. Anyway, go on. Continue, please.
Well, the next morning, Matt Eberflus was asked about Kevin Warren's calm comment and just sort of his role in all that and what his response to it. And I promise you it was a much measured response than what we just heard from the car.
Yeah, I would just say that when you have a vision for where you want the football team to be and you have an approach and you spell that out and you put your heads together collectively as a group to form that plan and then execute that plan, but also have the ability to adjust and adapt when things change. And not throw into a panic mode and say, okay, hey, this is where it is. Now we will shift together as a group. What's the best plan going forward? And then just keep moving forward towards the vision. But you have to have that, I believe we have a great foundational floor, in our young group of players and how we standardize our approach to everything we do, on the field, off the field. And I think that's where it is. And I think that creates that calmness.
Go ahead.
I love that one. I love it. Flus Kobe. We planted our flag. This is who we are. This is what we do. I'm with you, Flus. I loved every bit of that, Flus.
All right.
Eberflus saying there's a plan in place. again, that aligns with what we've always heard from Ryan Poles. The regime itself being, I think, very connected in what the end goal is, right? So, I mean, again, speaks to the calmness that I think is, oozing out of this Bears organization right now.
Flus ain't calm though. He's sitting there. The arms are ready. The intense look is there. He's not even noticing Jason Leeser to his left. I mean, the dude's focused. The Flus is not playing.
Yeah, but look, I think another way to look at this though is you did have a major move at the very top of the organization, one that fans have been asking for forever, and a lot of times that can lead to sudden change throughout the organization. And maybe it will in other areas, but I do sense an absolute alignment between Warren and Poles and down to Eberflus right now, and understanding that there's really nothing to overreact about to how last season played out. Now the key is, of course, going forward, that this plan that they have in place, that they are executing, I would use the word methodically. Still turns into good results, because ultimately if it doesn't, then it's going to look back at like a bad plan, because the last regime had a plan too, and they started slow too, and they didn't make any, enormous splashes. In fact, you could argue that Poles has made bigger moves already than Ryan Pace ever did, just by trading the number 1 overall pick. It really wasn't until that Mitch Trubisky trade that things really, got going, and that was already his 3rd year. So, yeah, I think that's just an important note in this entire conversation, and something that did stand out to me. Another thing that stood out to me, and I'm sure you guys discussed this a little bit while I was gone last week, but just it's very interesting to me how involved Flus really is in the scouting process, both with free agents and draft picks. And he went into a little bit more detail, if you want to check it out, in our conversation with him on Hoge and Jahns when he joined us, even going down to quizzing prospects on some Bears history and the top 30 visits, which got completely taken out of context by one aggregator on Twitter last week. So I encourage people to go check out that entire interview, and not just the clickbait that may have come out of, isolating one quote. But it's just very interesting. Like, Poles values Flus's background in being a college coach, where when you're a college coach, you have to recruit. You have to be a scout at the same time. You have to analyze how these players fit your system and what you're trying to build, and then make offers. And that background is obviously valuable, and something that Flus really takes a lot of pride in, because it stood out to me how he told us that, and I talked to you guys about this last week, they're coaching in the morning and then they're scouting in the afternoon. I'm talking about the coaching staff. That's how Flus has the daily schedule set up. And so, look, it's not abnormal to have your head coach very involved in the draft room. But I do think it's the level which this front office is leaning on the coaching staff is very, very interesting to me.
I just think they're an interesting combo, right? Flus is 15 years older than his GM. He's got that much more experience in the game of football. We're learning more about Poles as we go along here. He was super hyped and excited and living with a lot of anxiety as well, trying to figure out, what he was going to do with the number 1 pick. And I think what Flus is, from what I'm getting here, is this is a calming figure for Poles around here. This dude is who he is every single day. I'm not dealing with some wild card at all with my head coach. I know exactly what I'm going to get, and I know that I'm going to get to the scouting part of it, just a very detailed, level-headed analysis of who's available, and he's not going to, just be somebody who 1 minute he's going to think one thing, 1 minute he's going to think another, and then he's going to put this system in or want to do that. I think when you start to really learn their personalities over time, I think it just makes a whole lot of sense why Ryan Poles wanted Matt Eberflus to be his head coach.
Well, I think too, when you have someone who has such a very specific system and the hits principle, like for someone to be that in tune with the prospects and going through the evaluations with guys, like he also wants to make sure that the people that the players are going to bring in are going to match and be a good fit with the system that is run throughout the entire organization. So I think that's also big for Eberflus being a part of that. And you look at the first two signings the Bears made in free agency, 2 linebackers, the position that Eberflus knows arguably the best out of any. So it makes sense to me that for a guy that has as much experience as he does, that he wants to be a part of it. And we know he's in the quarterback rooms and every different meeting that he can possibly get to. And I think that's, again, the attention to detail. It's explicit with Matt Eberflus and how he just goes his day-to-day life breathing and loving football, which he also wants in the players that he brings in.
Hoge, how do you feel about, as the elder statesman on this show, I can take on the Flus role? You guys can be Poles and Cunningham and whoever else you want to be. I'll be Flus. Not quite Flus's age.
The Carmosophy?
The Carmosophy. I have the older, more grounded, daily, you know exactly what you're going to get. I would never say anything that was off the beaten path. Solid Flus. I could just lean into that. That's my new role here on CHGO Bears. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already.
Meanwhile, Nick's fixing the shoelaces in his background while you're saying all that. I think we all know who the oldest person in spirit here is.
If you want to call yourself out that way, go right ahead.
I'm the boring old guy on the show, for being honest. Even if you do have me an age.
I'm calling you mature. I'm calling you grounded. I'm not. I wouldn't. You just did that to yourself. I did none of that.
I know. Mike says, "Carm, your tennis pecs are way too small to be Eberflus."
That's messed up. Big win yesterday. Cameron went down 1-1. I was flexing all over him.
Please,
I like it.
Please hit that like button. We appreciate everybody watching. We're going to bring in Adam Jahns here shortly. There was one more question, too. I lost it now, but I did see it earlier from Doug. Do you think Getsy has a voice in the draft room? Absolutely. Remember, he coached the Senior Bowl, which Doug pointed out, and obviously they're leaning on whatever he was able to gain from there. And when Flus says he's got all his coaches scouting, I mean, they're all looking at these guys. They're all doing evaluations on these players, and it's not like, you know, their evaluations is making any decision, but it's certainly helping inform the decisions. And if Getsy, you know, came out of there at the Senior Bowl with a certain thing on a certain player, they're definitely going to listen to that.
I hope that Getsy is in there right now talking to Matt Eberflus, Ryan Poles, and everyone saying, like, look, you either give me Bijan Robinson or give me Jackson Smith-Njigba, or I'm resigning. Let's go, Getsy. Make a big play. I know that's exactly what Adam Jahns wants him to be doing too. I know he's coming up here. So.
All right, yeah, we're going to bring Johnsy in here, but first want to make sure you know all about Fubo TV. I had the Fubo going on yesterday because I'll be honest with you, I had been using a different streaming service before, but I love baseball. And even though I'm a White Sox fan, it's still nice to be able to have marquee and throw on a nice Cubs-Brewer game on a Sunday, which Fubo allowed me to do. 140-plus live channels. Sports, shows, movies, and news. You can stream live TV from any device. It's super simple. Watch the most Chicago sports for the lowest price. You can start watching immediately with a 7-day free trial. No contract, no cable, no hassle. You just sign up and start watching. Also includes 1,000 hours of cloud DVR at no extra charge. And it allows you to watch your local teams while traveling, which is huge. So, watch your favorite Chicago team on Marquee, NBC Sports Chicago with Fubo TV. Use the link in the description below on YouTube to sign up for 15% off your first month of Fubo Pro.
And guys, I have to tell you about Shady Rays. Take on the sun with gear built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered for the warm weather ahead with premium polarized shades at an affordable price. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company that offers a world-class product that's just as good as any expensive pair we've worn here at CHGO. Durable frames and extremely clear optics for outdoor adventures. I have my Shady Rays always in my car, so whether I'm going to the gym or the studio, easy access, put them on, and I know I'm secured there. What's awesome is if you
weren't playing tennis, Nick, Can you wear them playing tennis?
You can do that if you're playing outdoor basketball. Perfect pair of sunglasses to wear to make sure your shot's going down or your return or serve is on point there, Mark. So thank you for asking. But what's awesome, if you lose or break your pair of Shady Rays while you're playing tennis, maybe even on day one, they told us they'll send you a brand new pair, no questions asked. You wear your Shady Rays with confidence because they have your back long after your purchase. And exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Go to shadyrays.com and use code CHGO for 50% off 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself. The Shady Rays are rated 5 stars by over 250,000 people.
And CHGO Bears offseason coverage is brought to you by the ComEd Energy Efficiency Program. Learn more at ComEd.com/powering-biz. All right, let's bring in Adam Jahns from The Athletic, the Hoge Jahns podcast. What are you smiling about?
You guys got those ads down. Very good.
Well, it's almost like we're professionals.
Especially Nick, you got a little distracted there with a tennis ball being brought in.
Well, that's every single ad read we do. Carmen's always giggling at some comment or putting something up on the screen.
Oh,
always.
Oh,
10 out of 10 times.
Never heard this beef until now. This is
text me on the side, Carmen. I got you.
New beef of the day. All right. Too much action during the reads, Carm. I'm planting that flag. I'm not giving that one up. By the way, do you two know each other? This is adorable. I think this is the first time, at least, that I've been here that Jahns has been on the show. This is very exciting for me.
It's good to be here, boys.
Yeah, it is. I think it's the second or third appearance, one of the two. But when he writes 10,000 words in a story, we got to bring him on. That's the rule. There's
only 3,000 there, Adam Hoge.
Okay.
Only 3,000.
Hey, I went through the whole article and did line by line things that I want to bring up, buddy. This was a hell of a job by you guys. Congratulations.
Thanks, Carm. But I think I only got 10 minutes for that.
We're all right, John. Well, Carm, since you have all these things, I'll let you start, but I want to make sure people know what was written here was the Athletics perspective piece, insider view of the big trade that went down. And the cool thing is it's got the Panther side with Joe Person, who covers the Panthers for the Athletic, and then Jahns and Kevin Fishbank getting all the dirt on the Bears side, which you should read. And if you're not already subscribed, make sure you are at theathletic.com/HoganJahns. Carm, go ahead.
I do want to shout out Braggs' comment. Finally, the better Adam. That is just straight rude from it to wow. I mean, really over the top. I thought the beefs were over with this whole Fairleigh Dickinson thing, but apparently not.
Well, I was over it, but
it's a brick thrown, right? That's what that counts as.
That is a brick thrown, and I will now be continuing on the bit and wearing my Fairleigh Dickinson shirt on Wednesday's show, which I was actually not going to do, but now I will.
What a complete jerk. That was unbelievable, this guy. All right, so here, what jumped out at me, Adam Jahns, right at the start, quote from Ryan Poles. I was, quote, pacing back and forth just all over the place. I just wanted to get it done. I don't know exactly if he told that to you or whoever, but it just jumped off at me like, part of the deal is you got to sit with the anxiety of what are you going to do? And so he's outing himself, saying like, I'm not saying that it was he's very comfortable in his move, but I thought that stood out in a big way.
Yeah, 12 days of negotiations with the Panthers, and there was other teams involved. I know you ask about that, but I think for Ryan Poles, when he told us that, it was like, it's right here. The deal that I like, a player that I like, it's all right here. Let's get this done. It was a long process, a lot of talks on the phone, in person, in Indianapolis. Let's get that done. So it was good to see some of the emotions come out, because you could imagine these guys are so even-keeled by the time they talk to us. But these conversations can get contentious. There's emotions that come in before and after the fact. So it was good to see that side from Ryan Poles.
Jahns, what was obviously extensive work here that you did with Fishbane, but what is the big takeaway from just what you kind of gathered there from, again, listening to polls, listening to all the GMs kind of speaking about how this trade went down?
I think it's the process of Ryan Poles. It's talking to Kyle Davidson from the Blackhawks, getting as much information that he can, not thinking he has everything figured out, right? Like seeking help outside of football to get some advice from hockey, since players are traded all the time for draft compensation. That's different in the NFL. You don't see it as much as you do in hockey. So I like that. And Ryan Poles has mentioned that before. He's got contacts in baseball. that he reaches out to, that he feels out for certain questions or concerns that he has with the Bears and whatnot. So I like the process. Like it's going to Indianapolis prepared. It's doing his due diligence with all the teams that could have interest in quarterbacks, not only in like the top 10 where you had the Texans, you had the Panthers, you had the Raiders, like the obvious teams, the Colts, but beyond that, like who's interested beyond 10, who can move up for a huge swing. So I like the process of Ryan Poles.
Another thing that stood out to me, Jahns, that I thought was new information that no one else had at this point was, I think from the Panther side of things, was Scott Fitterer saying that he really felt like the sweet spot in this draft class is somewhere between 20 and 45. Really good value in there. And that was a big reason why he didn't want to give up the 39th overall pick, which Poles was asking for. And so instead, they essentially gave up 2 second-round picks instead of that pick because it's 61. It's a lot later. And that's where the 2025 second-rounder came in, correct?
Correct, yeah. So what you have is, well, it's a negotiation, right? It was honestly like a, I don't know if it was amicable, but it was a friendly back and forth for the most part. You know, there was a trade offer that was pulled by the Panthers when they left Indianapolis, when they left the Combine. A couple days later, talks heated up again between the two teams when Scott Fitterer was at his daughter's soccer game. It was just time. There was too much competition. There was too much rumblings out there of other teams potentially wanting to move up. But you're right. But I think the point for Poles, like, oh, you know, he didn't get the 39th pick, but he's got 3 picks within a 12-pick range, like later in that round, on day 2 of the draft. So if he wanted to move up, maneuver the draft again, he's got more capital to do so now.
So that's just an interesting point that I shouldn't dive down, but I think it's interesting that Fitterer, while at his daughter's soccer game, prioritized his job over his own daughter to make the trade. Shouldn't he have waited an hour to call up Poles? I mean, and then Poles, you know, now we know he goes to the Deer Path Inn for dinner. I don't know if you have any reporting on what he actually gets, but the level of detail this piece, like you knew that he was at the soccer game and like wasn't paying attention and didn't even know who scored while he made the deal. This is an elite level reporting, Adam Jahns.
My favorite like fun fact is that Ryan Poles like switched hotels. Like the JW Marriott at the Combine is an insane place. It's always busy. Like every hour of the day, it's nonstop. It's actually even like busier, like post 10 p.m. when everybody's coming back from the meetings. All the scouts and executives are coming back from the meetings. Like Ryan Poles didn't want to stay there. He was down the street at the Hyatt, which is, you know, every year I meet a good agent buddy there, and it's a lot calmer, I should say, than the scene at the JW.
Unless Jalen Carter is getting charged for something, then it's not so calm from what I heard at the Hyatt. But yeah, that's super inside Jahns, but that stood out to me too. It was like, oh wow, like he actually left the JW to be in a separate place, whether that's just like paranoia of who he's meeting with or just staying, you know, because where the Bears stay, you can't really get from your hotel room to anywhere else you got to go without like walking through a busy area. Or Brad Biggs sitting at the Starbucks, you know. So
there are a lot of Bears reporters that set up in the JW Starbucks on the second floor there.
Yeah, it sounds super interesting. Nick, you got anything else?
Yeah, real quick, Jahns. When we were talking about Ryan Poles and maybe this organization with the sense of calmness that it kind of feels within the Bears right now, then kind of reading through your piece, there's some tidbits about how Poles was up all night or thinking about things. And then he wouldn't like the 3 players they wanted to trade from the Panthers, Burns and guys like DJ Moore was the most you can get rid of him because he's a wide receiver in a way. Do you feel like a sense that like Ryan Poles kind of settled in any way for what, you know, ended up happening from the trade to 1 to 9, almost exploring that the trade at number 2 with Houston? Is there any sense of like almost settling?
I know what you're saying, Nick, but like
good question.
Go back in time a little bit where like the Panthers were hitting full rebuild mode. Christian McCaffrey's being traded, and everybody's asking about DJ Moore, and they put their foot down. Like, we're not trading DJ Moore. He's going to be the part of the core of the future here. He had 3,000-yard receiving seasons without a good quarterback here. You know, we like the guy. And they didn't want to trade him. Like I felt like we made that pretty clear. Now, how they rank amongst Derek Brown and Brian Burns, I get at the pass rusher and the 3 technique. You can make the argument. I know Fitterer did that those are harder positions to evaluate and get right. But I could tell you from covering the Bears for a decade, it's not easy to get the wide receiver position right either. You know, sometimes you have to bring him in from the outside. That's where the Bears' best ones at least have come from, other than Alshon Jeffrey.
So that was interesting too. That the Bears wanted one of 3. I mean, did you get any sense, Adam Jahns, that Moore was their 3rd pick and they were willing to take DJ Moore, or like any idea how they had him ordered?
I think they wanted to help Justin Fields. And I get the idea of adding a pass rusher, adding a 3 technique, both huge holes, right, for the Bears defense. But I think if you look at the draft classes, like you could probably find your 3 technique in the 2nd round. You could probably find one in the 1st round if you want to reach a little bit at 9. You could probably find a good pass rusher there at 9 if you want. And they get offensive tackles there, and I think that's where the Bears are going. But the Bears wanted to help Justin Fields. And I think finding that experienced receiver, you know, Hoge and I have talked about this a bit, like getting in that trend of adding that experienced receiver for that young quarterback, where they help each other take that next step in their careers. Like we've seen it play out in Philadelphia. We've seen it play out in Buffalo with great results. I'm glad the Bears have taken that path towards that trend in the NFL.
And one other thing that I just throw in there is a lot of times there's a veteran receiver and then a 1st-round draft pick too. So that's one of the many reasons why I haven't completely taken wide receiver off the board for the Bears early, which I'm sure we'll talk about a lot more this month. I want to highlight a couple comments. One, a super chat from our guy, the Duke, who's in here all the time, Johnsy. The better half, sup, Johnsy, you and Fishman crushed it. So I think that earns you an invite to Duke Island, which is the island that the Duke owns that we may have made up, but I've now convinced myself.
I was going to ask if you've been there yet, but I'll take it.
No, it's
Fishman's been Duke's the man, and Fishman's been having a very rough time with Julian Roper transferring out of Northwestern and Boo Booey declaring for the NBA draft. Fishman's not had an easy week. Neither have I.
But he's in the comments here too, pointing out that he thought that he said Kevin Fishman in the comments. Fishman, by the way, has a like a cult following on this show for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's the most popular, friend of the show. He says, "Great show, guys. Thought this was the story of the day."
He's a witty one, So Kevin Fishman's got a lot of family and friends in the area that seem to fill up the comment section a lot. That's, I would say, Fishman.
Fishman is very popular as the Fishman and the Fishbane and all things Bears on CHGO. There's no doubt about it. In fact, I'm officially jealous by the level of popularity that Kevin Fishbane has the show, because I think most people, if we voted right now, would kick me off and put him on, which is unfortunate for me.
He's got another comment here. There we go. I think I might be more popular on CHGO than on Hoge and Jahns.
Yeah, that's
wow.
Well, Kevin filled in for me last week while I was still in Arizona. He did a great job. I do not understand how Johns has never seen an episode of Hard Knocks in his life, which is apparently something that was discussed. But
it's a fun fact right there.
I don't know how fun it is.
That's interesting.
It's a fact.
Wait, I before I lose my train of thought here, I just want to get it out there. Another interesting thing in the piece, that Carolina was willing to go to 2. They're happy with 2 quarterbacks, but Houston wasn't, and they have one. If Houston wants their guy, then why wouldn't they want? Or I guess they don't, so they weren't willing to pay to go up. So they're both happy with 2 guys. Is that how we're reading this?
Good question. Well, here's the thing: they're happy with 2 guys, but say through these pro days, these private workouts, the dinners that they have over the next month, if they fall in love with one, or say one gets hurt, or something else pops up, now the Panthers have certainty. Some teams like having that. They don't like, letting things just fall to them or hope things fall in their favor. Now the Panthers have certainty. So if CJ Stroud happens to really win them over, he becomes their guy over the next few weeks, then you have certainty that you go and get him, which I think maybe surprised Ryan Poles to a certain extent that other teams didn't want that. But, like Ryan Pace used to operate in that fashion, like go get your guy. And I think with quarterbacks, it does make a lot of sense, especially when you start to separate them through your evaluations.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to me that the Texans seem to be in the mix of all this, but is your conclusion, Johns, that they just weren't ready to make a move now, whereas you had the Bears and Panthers who are like, I mean, the anxiety that Poles was obviously feeling with this number one pick in this trade is evident from a number of these pieces, including yours, that have come out. That it's just like they wanted to get this thing done for many different reasons, including knowing that they had their number one wide receiver going into free agency. But you had two teams motivated to just get it done on that Friday, and they weren't going to wait for another team to get involved.
Yeah, I think that's important for the Bears. They wanted to have their books in order going into free agency. Whether or not they had to break the bank a little bit in other positions, or where, receiver slots in their needs come free agency and then later the draft. So they like that level of certainty going into the new league year, or at least the negotiation window, to have that receiver position taken care of. But you're right. I think some teams, like I have this takeaway. I don't think some teams were just ready yet. Maybe they just wanted more time with these quarterbacks. Maybe they couldn't distinguish them from each other yet in terms of their own grades and their own evaluations. But the Bears and Panthers felt ready. Like they felt good. Like Ryan Poles left the combine thinking, that's three very good quarterbacks there. And if somebody wants them, come and get them. I'm not waiting. I want to move.
That was a super interesting piece. They interviewed him. They knew they weren't taking any of them, but they also gained confidence that these guys are going to be well liked. I like that part of their analysis. I thought that made a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, Adam, were the Colts ever? I mean, I know you put like the timing and you just mentioned that. Were the Colts ever really, from your perspective, like in consideration for getting that number one overall?
Yeah, pick? but the timing and the price at that moment wasn't right for them, and then that could go back to the Colts' own evaluations and grades at that time. There wasn't a quarterback that distinguished himself, at least in their own evaluations at that point. Now that could change, at least maybe in Jim Irsay's opinion, in a day or two. Maybe it's Bryce Young that they really want to go get, but now it's kind of an unfavorable position to be in, where you watch two quarterbacks go, and you just got to hope someone falls to you. You got to hope someone doesn't jump you now to three, because there's interest for that.
Well, Johns, appreciate you jumping on. Awesome piece. I hope everybody takes a moment or two to check it out today on The Athletic, theathletic.com/Hoge and Jahns. We'll discuss this more on tomorrow's show as well on Hoge and Jahns. And we have some plenty of draft content coming your way on that show tomorrow as well. I'll just say that. So looking forward to it. Thanks, Johnsy.
Thanks, man. Carm, what do you got? You got one more?
I got last question.
All right.
I just want
saw it in your face. I got you.
I want you on the record here. What are the Bears doing at 9, and who's the first quarterback that's taken?
They're taking Paris Johnson Jr. at number 9, the Ohio State tackle, and the first quarterback taken, C.J. Stroud. Look at that, Ohio State. Go Buckeyes.
Boom.
Take that, Hoge.
Boom. There it is.
All right.
Boom.
Playing the chalk, I appreciate it. It's probably I believe you on 1. I'm wondering about 9.
Well, right. Now that John's answered that question, I guess we'll just scrap the rest of the month, and we'll talk to everybody on April 27th.
Yep, we're done. See you guys. See you, boys.
There he is, Adam Jahns. Follow him on Twitter at Adam Jahns, and make sure you go check out that piece on The Athletic. I'm just not there yet to give away answers like that. Who are the Bears taking today?
He don't know. I'm asking him to
he
guess.
knows. Did you read that piece? He knows what's going on. I'm just kidding. He does not know. But I think Paris Johnson is a good answer to that question. All right. You probably already know this, but want to drill it in again. CHGO is supported and loved by the Goose Island Beer Company, and we love them back. They've been Chicago's beer since 1988. Got the Blackhawks Pale Ale, which is in my fridge right now, the limited release. Because the Hawks and Goose Island have been neighbors for 25 plus years. They got the Goose Pub inside the UC, which has been open for almost 10 now. And that tap room is a pregame destination for Hawks fans with that Blackhawks Pale Ale. Get it while you still can. There's also the Bull City 312 that's out right now. They match the City Edition uniforms that the Bulls have as well. And again, we're getting into summertime, so you got to go 3-1-2. No plans, pale ale. There was I tweeted out the other day. It's also my wife showed up with me. It's like their summer ale. It's a Kolsch that just came out. It's got a cool can. Make sure you check that out as well. My refrigerator is loaded right now with Goose Island. We had one small patio moment over the weekend. The weather got just nice enough. It was like 60 the other day before it rained. It was great. And Goose Island's 2 local locations are open, ready to welcome you. Grab a beer right from their innovation tanks at the Goose Island Tap Room at 1800 West Fulton, or get a smash burger and a fresh beer of the week at the original Clybourne Brew House at 1800 North Clybourne. For reservations and pickup, go to gooseisland.com/locations. Goose Island Beer Company.
Love you, Goose, and we love you, the ComEd Energy Efficiency Program, which is committed to helping families like Adam Hoge and his family and businesses like the Nicholas Moreano Sneaker Corporation and the communities that they serve save money and energy. ComEd offering that free facility assessment that can help you find energy-saving opportunities, lighting, HVAC systems, commercial kitchen equipment, or the always favorite industrial processes. A lot going on here. You want to get involved in the ComEd Energy Efficiency Program. This is what happens. An authorized engineer is going to work with you to develop a detailed assessment plan specific to your goals and needs. It can be done in person or virtually, so a lot of flexibility there. Everybody likes flexibility. It lasts approximately 2 hours, so you do need to block off a little bit of time. But you're going to love the process because within 3 to 4 weeks, you get a report detailing your energy efficiency projects that can start working on immediately, and you will get an estimate regarding your energy savings, your cost savings, your project costs, potential incentives, and a simple payback as well. This is what you do. Adam Hoge, pay attention. Don't wait. Get started saving money and energy today. For energy saving tips and to schedule your free facility assessment, go to ComEd.com/poweringbiz. ComEd.com/poweringbiz. That's all you got to do.
Our guy Herb Howard in the comments today too.
Really? We got Herbie?
Yeah, this is a first. This is a first for Adam and Herb are in like the same space, I guess. You in the chat. Yeah, so it's
Herb,
it's exciting.
Johnsy, Fishbane, basically all the people that they love more than us. All here today in the comments. I love it.
You missed Herb in studio last week, Hoge, when you were Hollywooding. And he got on that ping pong table. He showed it. He showed an elite backhand potential. The forehand actually was coming along too. He's got to spend some time with Coach Carm to really get there. But I do like the potential of Herb on the ping pong table, for the record.
Ooh, I like it.
Yeah.
We almost had. By the way, I hate how I always miss Herb because you guys always bring Herb in when I'm gone, and so I have Herb, just know I have plans for the future that we're gonna knock out a big show together. You don't know about him yet, but I'm gonna fill you in. And Carm nearly avoided a disaster on the ping pong table in Arizona. Played my wife. You know, I don't want to make excuses, but you ever played with like it was like out by a pool at a hotel. They didn't even have real ping pong paddles. They were just plastic. There was no rubber on them.
Wind's blowing, tough conditions.
Blowing.
Yep.
She definitely had the advantage. Let's just say it took a 10-1 rally at the end for me to pull out the victory. But
also,
victory was had, and that's all that matters.
Also, Krista can play. This is exciting.
He's an athlete.
Yeah. Well,
sure. 10-1. Impressive.
Did that let's get deep into the Hoge personal life here. Did that impact things later in the day? Did it get a little bit? Was it too contentious in that moment that things were not as lovey-dovey as they could have been had you not played ping pong?
No, everything was fine there.
Okay.
Everything was fine. But, yeah, I think you've talked about my competitiveness come out. And when there was a realistic shot of me losing that game, it was like, okay, it's time to get serious here. This is not happening.
You should have sent me a text saying, thank you, Carm, for all the practice here, because I would have lost to my wife, except, everything you've done really did help me get to the point that I could just be consistent and get it done when I had to, under pressure of everything that was going on right there. I feel good about it deep and down right now that you're bringing it up.
If someone could please transcribe everything Carm just said and then send it to me so I can send him that text, I would appreciate it, because it was well said. It was well said. All right. Last thing we got to get to on today's show is a piece that Nick has up. I encourage everybody to check it out right damn now, or maybe wait till we get done discussing this for a few minutes and then read the whole thing, because it's lengthy. We're not going to get into all of it, but Nick had a chance to talk to Brandon Thorne, who hopefully you guys all follow on Twitter and check and consume his stuff. He's been doing these breakdowns with prospects, and he's an offensive line guy. He was on the show with us last year, I think, before the draft, and he really knows these offensive linemen. So, Nick, what were your biggest takeaways? What are the things we need to discuss before everybody goes and checks out the full thing?
Yeah, so just a snapshot of what I talked about with Brandon Thorne. I asked him about the class as a whole, especially when you're looking at the offensive tackle position. He thinks there's roughly 4 to 5 guys in this class that he thinks can start for 2 contracts, but overall he thinks it's an average class. So he's not too high on some of the top guys, but his top offensive tackle, and the guy, Johns just brought up, Paris Johnson Jr., that's who he sees as the top, specifically when it goes for the Bears scheme that they run and what they're kind of looking for at the tackle position. So if you're a fan of Paris Johnson Jr., Brandon Thorne is also a fan of what he can do potentially being in the Bears scheme. The only thing that he says is a big, and he said Achilles heel for a guy like Paris Johnson Jr. is that he's got below average play strength, but he thinks if, a guy that's only played 1 season at Ohio State at left tackle, that can be an area of his game that he can improve. But he also mentioned stuff about Peter Skoronski in there. He thinks that for a team like Chicago or Tennessee, the 2 teams that he identified, he could actually play tackle for the Bears to kind of start out, but he just sees him as a way better guard in the NFL than he would at tackle. And we all know about the arm length and things like that. And then we got into a discussion about Braxton Jones and how he sees him. And Brandon Thorne, way back when was writing his rookie scouting report for Braxton Jones, he says not much has changed from what he saw in the 5th round draft pick out of Southern Utah to who the player is now today. And he did say there is a fatal flaw in his pass protection. And I can get into it, but I think you'd rather read the piece because he kind of goes really in depth with the terminology that he uses. So a fatal flaw for Braxton Jones is pass protection, but he also was kind of mentioning that he likes his ability to be provide run support and be, probably a better on the right side. And we know Matt Eberflus kind of brought that up at the NFL owners meeting, possibility of him moving over to the right side, but there, like I said, there's a fatal flaw in his pass protection. And then day 3, let's say Ryan Poles doesn't use that 9th overall pick and select a offensive lineman. There are some day 3 tackles and you're looking at Braxton Jones being one of them, right? That he could potentially target. And if you're looking at tackles, he said Tyler Steen out of Alabama. But if you're looking also on the interior, there's a couple of guys, Ricky Stromberg from Arkansas, Jared Patterson from Notre Dame, are some potential guys that he likes on the interior. And the Bears probably can use a bunch of offensive linemen all over the place, especially because there's a lot of fluctuation going on. But he went really in depth, was pretty honest about, the Bears and how their offensive line is, who are some of the players that can really fit the role in the scheme that they run in the wide zone scheme. And then honestly, who's the best fit for the Bears if they do stay at 9. So I encourage everybody to go check that out at some point after this podcast, of course, and see what Brandon Thorne had to say. It was about a 15 to 20-minute conversation, but he went in depth just like he does in his Trench Warfare newsletter. If you have a chance or if you're subscribed to that, you're getting some of the best O-line breakdowns in the game right now. So definitely check that out, but go to allchgo.com and give that a read.
Nick, great stuff. Excellent job. And I already see people in the chat who've read it, so it's moving around, which is awesome. I am the more my reaction reading it was I wish they would have gone and signed Orlando Brown, and they were freed up to what are you laughing at, Hoge? I want to know right now.
They flat out came out and said he's not a fit for them. Why? Why
are
you so adamant they signed somebody that doesn't fit what they're doing?
I'll tell you why. Let me tell you why. Because every comment I read about Jackson Smith-Njigba and Bijan Robinson these are elite level dudes. All right, I don't see anybody saying that any of the offensive linemen are elite. That I hear that they can play. I hear that they have flexibility. I think that they're that Broderick Jones is an enormous athlete, and it's really great when you watch him run, which I don't know how important it is for an offensive lineman. I get it that you can move is a good thing, but that doesn't mean you're going to be a Pro Bowler. And then I read stuff with, just insane comments. If I can bring something up real quick about, this was the comment on Bijan, who nobody apparently wants to draft. Oh my goodness, this kid is unbelievable. Has great vision, size, power. He will block. I can't say enough great things about him. He should have left college 3 years ago. He's so big and strong. He's going to be an incredible NFL player. Now, that's one scout's opinion, and it came out of the Athletic piece on it. But it's like, I read that, I'm like, how do you not want that guy? Versus, well, Paris, maybe he's a right tackle, could be left tackle, not 100% certain if he's physical enough at the base, or Peter Skransky, whose arms are 32.5 inches, and he's probably better at guard, but he could play, or Broderick Jones, who started the least amount of games, but is an incredible, freakish athlete. Like, none of that excites me. And then Jackson Smith-Njigba, the comments about him are just out of control too. Just reading one thing about it. Let's see here.
Are you reading from Bruce Feldman's?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to give proper credit on the Athletic. Bruce Feldman every year does a mock draft where he has all this great insight from scouts and coaches, really from coaches at the college level that played against these guys and have the X's and O's game planning insight from facing all of them. It's a great piece. I recommend it.
It's awesome. And Brian Hartline, the Ohio State receivers coach, told him in that piece on JSN, his change of direction is definitely the best I've had. He's kind of unguardable. He'll be uber productive in the NFL. I think he'll be the guy that leads the league in receptions and receiving yards. Okay, give me that dude. Like that is...
Why can't they take that dude?
Well, they can, but... it's also, that's why I just say I wish they would have signed a tackle in free agency, because it's a huge need. I don't want Justin Fields to die either. So they got to address it. And so I'm okay with Poles swinging late. I'm
going to give you a date. I'm going to give you a date in Bears history.
Okay.
Okay. Here's a date in
give
Bears
me a date.
history. Do you know what happened on August 16th, 2021? August 16th, 2021.
It's 5 days after my birthday. I have no idea.
The Bears sign Jason Peters.
Oh,
at least that was the day it was. That was official. Okay.
What's on your head?
What you put on your head?
I'm putting the top of this candle covering sandalwood thing on my head for that Jason Peters reference. That sucks. But okay.
Why does it suck?
Because he's 39 years old and it sucks.
But the reality is he didn't suck. He played great for them the whole year. And the point is not that they go out and sign Jason Peters. It's that there's more waves of free agency after the draft. There's going to be players cut. There's going to be players that become available via trade. There's going to be someone available like Riley Reif, worst case scenario, available in July. Like, you can still find stability at the right tackle position if you want to go your route, which is what you're talking about. I would encourage, and I don't think based on his track record he will do this, not force an offensive lineman if there's a better skill position player or anyone else, a 3 technique that they feel like is better there. I don't think that they're, in a corner here, forced to take one of these offensive linemen they don't really love.
I feel a whole lot better. Thank you. Honestly, that was a good sound. like maybe you will. I'll just say this: if both Jackson Smith-Njigba and Bijan Robinson are both there at 9, and we don't trade down and we take an offensive lineman, I'll say I totally get it, but I'm not going to be like jumping up and down excited about it. That's all. And I don't think they're drafting Bijan. I don't think they're drafting JSN, but elite playmakers. I don't care what position they play. They have huge value. And come on, let's
Nick,
not.
Nick, can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
I agree that people should probably go read Brandon's analysis on the fatal flaw of Braxton Jones. It's probably a better way of explaining it. But did he think that it's something that would be less of an issue if he moves over to the right side? Did he talk about that?
He said basically if he moves over to the right side that the Bears can like scheme wise give him more help. But the issue is, and I can read it here. It's pretty quick. I think he plays with limited range. This is what Brandon Thorne said. I think he drops his outside foot too quickly. It creates short corners, gets beat around the edge too easily, opens up his hips and shoulders too quickly, and that leaves him vulnerable to getting beat across his face or driven back into the quarterback. And I don't know that is going to get really fixed. So he did say moving over to the right side, you can have an elite level type of guy in pass protection there. You can cater your scheme a little bit more to give him a little bit more help. And he's an asset in the run game, he said, for Braxton Jones, but that's kind of his big issue. And he doesn't know how correctable that is at this point because he still sees the same player coming out of Southern Utah that he did when he was going into his rookie season.
By the way, shout out Herb Howard. He's exactly right. They're not an offensive tackle away from a Super Bowl and get good players. And they know that. I'm not saying they don't. Obviously, they know what they have and they know where they're going and all of it. But
yeah. It's just my point is they can always get help. Whatever the glaring holes are that's still there, they can still fill it later. They don't need to force it. It's interesting. I almost feel like in Braxton Jones they have Charles Leno again. Like just a solid dude who is durable. Now it's only been one season, but that was the one thing Charles Leno can always hang his hat on was he's going to play. He didn't miss starts. He just started every game. He was dependable, but he wasn't perfect. Exactly. In kind of the same way that Braxton Jones wasn't perfect. But, that's super interesting because we've also heard, and Corey Wooten's talked a lot about this, that, he had some more strength, that he'll be in a better position. But some of that technique stuff that Brandon Thorne got into is pretty good. So make sure you check it out. allchgo.com, unlocked for everybody to read right now. It is called Q&A with offensive line expert Brandon Thorne, who is the best offensive tackle for the Bears in the 2023 draft. Good stuff, Nick. All right, we got to get out of here. Good show today. Appreciate everyone interacting. It was an all-star crew. Adam Jahns, Herb Howard, Kevin Fishbane, Braggs in the comments.
All in the show.
Braggs has just been off his game lately. It's kind of been embarrassing. The dude's just fallen off a cliff. Guy once had it going on, and now he's just kind of a washed-up dude. I don't know what happened to that guy.
That's harsh. Wow.
I guess we can discuss on After Dark tonight, right, Mark?
Yeah, big After Dark show tonight, 6:30. Would have loved to see you there. We will do a ton more, obviously, as we will be 23 and a half days away from the draft by 6:30. I do plan on touching on some of I think what can be an important conversation is After Dark, a little more flexible with the topics. We'll hit a little bit on the college basketball national championship and the fallout, which I thought was super interesting with Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. So we'll hit a little bit of that tonight as well.
And a full recap of the White Sox beating the Giants, I hope.
Big opening day, baby. I can't wait to go to Guaranteed Rate with you, Adam Hoge. And you're invited too, Nick, of course. But, and I know that Kevin Kadick wants to go. It's going to be, hey, I'm impressed by the White Sox. Let me ask you one question, Cub fans. Will they get back to over 500 this season?
Wow.
I want to know. I hope they do, Luke Stuckmeyer, Cody Del Mendo, and the whole crew over there. Let's go.
That's a tough question. I don't know.
All
right. Crystal, we see you in the super chat voting for Carm. I don't know. What is she voting for? What's the vote? Just vote for Carm?
I said if we had a vote right now, Fishbait or Carm on this podcast, I think 99% would go Fishbait. But I got Crystal. I love you, Crystal. Thank you.
There you go. And then Oscar jumping in the ways. Poll $9.99 super chat. The way polls operates, I can see polls trading as far back as the 20s. I definitely think a trade back's in play. And if you can somehow add 2 picks in that sweet spot that Scott Fitterer was talking about, 20 to 45, I don't think that's a bad way to go. So, all right. We're out of here. I'm going to go get working on some more draft stuff. I feel like I'm behind, and we make sure you check out our draft board, which is up for diehards on allchgo.com/diehard. We're continuing to update. That thing's going to be loaded. We have exciting draft news to share with you soon. I promise. I almost thought it was going to be today, but we got exciting stuff to share with you about the NFL draft coming up later this month. So I'll tease it for now, and I think at some point this week we'll be able to share that, and I can't wait to do so. So thanks so much for being here. Please hit that like button. Please hit subscribe, notifications so you know when we go live. Otherwise, we are back here tomorrow at noon, and we'll talk to you then.